I'm Gretchen,
I'm Corey.
and we are two girls in Jesus. You see us in our pajamas. We are with pillows and blankets, and y'all, this is what, how many times? This
This
is
is our
the
third take.
this is the third time we've tried to do this. We have had wind issues, we have had lighting issues, we have had technical issues. We're done with the issues. And I said, Corey, we're putting on our pajamas and we're going to try one more time.
We're calling it a night if this doesn't work.
If this doesn't work,
But hey, guys, we're together. And it's been fun.
yeah. And we are here to dig into the book of James with y'all. Corey and I have been so excited to do this with y'all. These verses, they were wonderful, but they were also kind of a smack in the face to wake up and do better. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I wrote that more than once.
Right. Yeah.
But we're going to start out with 3 verses, and then we will have a part 2 that will have the final 4 from our study on James.
But we're recording it all at the same time. You're just going to have a part 1 and a part 2. We're not going to do this more than right now. We're done. Okay.
It's a test of our endurance.
No, it's a test of we're showing our perseverance.
There you go.
Yeah.
That came from earlier.
Right.
You guys have no idea what
we had some good stuff, y'all. We had some good stuff. It's just poof, gone to the window.
Maybe it'll come back to us.
Maybe so. You want to start with our first verse?
Sure.
James, what is it?
Chapter 1, yeah. Verses 2 through 7. The NIV edition says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord." So this particular passage in the NIV uses the word perseverance. I'm going to let Gretchen read her NLT version that has her bad word in it.
Okay, here we go. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord.
So it's kind of strange going through this all over again, because now I have different thoughts.
Right.
Kind of like every time that we go back over one of our old studies.
Right.
So wisdom is a big thing. Also not doubting, which I struggle with doubting because of events, things that happen that I just don't understand. So Gretchen and I did this already and went through so much that she mentioned to me earlier, it's okay to have doubts, but what is your belief? I mean, that's kind of what you led me to earlier, to where I was like, well, yeah, I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus. I just have so many questions that I perceive as doubts, but it's not doubts about them. It's doubts about what they control, don't control, and that type of thing.
Yeah. One of the things that we talked about earlier, remember, I said, God's not sitting up there in heaven and we're on puppet strings, back in the fall. he gave Adam and Eve free will. That gave them free will to choose God or to not choose God. It gave them free will to choose to do good, but it also gave them free will to choose to do bad things. And people do bad things. Um, and it's hard when really good people go through hard, bad, unfair things. It really is. But okay, I'm going to give you a perfect example. Okay. Hurricane Helene. Okay. That hurricane was coming right for where I lived. I mean, they had us terrified. It was coming for right where I lived. And I mean, they were shutting everything down. Schools were shut down. Everything was shut down. And it's coming for us. Get ready. And it didn't take that path. It went to North Carolina. It clipped Georgia, but it didn't come through my area at all. We got some very light outer bands. And I remember when we went back to school, some of the other teachers were like, praise God, he protected us. It didn't come near us. And I'm like, do you think he sent it to them? You think they deserved that and we didn't deserve it? That's not God. God doesn't work that way. He didn't take that storm and said, oh, I'm going to protect these people right here and I'm going to send it to destroy those. That's not how God works. It was a storm. They're unpredictable. And it destroyed some really good people's lives. Some really good people, children lost their lives. Um, he's just not up there controlling every little thing. I don't think that he is. And I think we've talked about this before. And like, now guys, this is not biblical. This is just what Gresham thinks. Okay. Um, I believe everyone is predestined a purpose. There's something God needs them to do, wants them to do. Um, the when the baby is born, um, they have the right to choose God or to not. And if they don't choose God, then God finds another person, okay, to do whatever he was going to have that one person do. But if they do choose God, then God sets them in motion for their purpose, okay? And that purpose is always to advance God's kingdom. So if that person ends up getting cancer, God heals that person because his purpose has not been fulfilled yet. If his purpose has been fulfilled and they get cancer, then God allows what is naturally going to happen. He may be healed through the medical treatments, and he may not. Um, you know, like I've said before, you've seen car wrecks, and you're like, there's no way those people got out alive, came out, made it. There's no way. You can't even tell that was a vehicle at one time, and they walked away without a scratch. And then you see fender benders that people never go home from. You know, I believe one has achieved their purpose and the other one hasn't. Um, I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that's what I believe. Because why would God choose to heal one of his children and not the other? He wouldn't.
I mean, I'm glad you gave yourself something that makes you feel better about it. I just still have questions.
Yes. I mean, I don't know. That's just the only thing that makes any kind of sense to me, because why would he's a parent, he's our father. He doesn't want one of us to live over another, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's a really hard question. And when if I ever find myself doubting, it is in those situations. I do want to talk about the wind and the wave a little bit. Sometimes you have to be pliable. Sometimes you have to go with the ebb and flow of where God's taking you. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. You don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know what all of this is going to churn up, right? But, he bends us and he sways us. And sometimes he prunes things from us. And that's all for our good. It doesn't mean that I like it, because on this human side, I can't see all the way around it, you know? So I think when we are in those times where we just feel we're getting hit back to back, the wind just won't stop. We can't get air. I think that's because we're trying to control. What do they say when you're in a riptide? You just need to float on your back, and it'll eventually spit you out. But if you try to get out of it and you fight against it, you're going to drown, because you'll tire before you can ever do that.
Yeah.
So I think we're fighting, we're trying to control what's happening, and we can't. There's only one that can control those things. And we just kind of have to let him do his thing at times, as uncomfortable as it may be for us and for others.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You got anything else for this one?
No.
No? You are ready for the next one?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. The next verse is James 1:22-25. And it says, but don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are only fooling yourselves. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it is like glancing at your face in the mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and you don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. Now, I'm gonna just be honest. I had to put that down. I just had to put it down, because that overwhelmed me right there. Had to put it down. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not supposed to forget what I read and heard? I cannot even remember what I wore yesterday. Those were my thoughts. And I just had to put it down.
My thought was, slap me across the face, because this is speaking directly to me. I read what I should be doing in my life, and I know what I am doing in my life. And I took this as a direct hit at, I was supposed to read these few verses as a reminder, as a slap across the face. But I read it with a clear head, and maybe when you were reading it, you had something else on your mind. So those key things
could have,
out to you instead of what happened when you went back to it.
After a little bit, I'm not going to tell you how long that little bit was, but it was a minute. Okay. I realized, and I read back over it, and I realized it wasn't necessarily talking about memory. Verse memorizing is a great practice. But again, I cannot remember what I wore yesterday. Okay. But if you read something and you put it into practice, you're going to remember the principle. You may not remember the address in the Bible. You might not even remember exactly what book it came out of, much less the chapter and verse. But you're going to remember God's word says, and you'll paraphrase because you're going to remember the practice. You know what I mean? And I happen to think that is super, super important. And you'll also remember how you felt as you were practicing whatever you chose to, you know, rather, it might be loving others as yourself, or it might not, it might be, holding your tongue, or I don't know, there's 100 things, different things it could be. But whatever thing that you're practicing, you're putting into practice, you're going to remember the way it felt. And so the next time that instance comes up, you might not remember the verse or where it's at, but you're going to remember how you felt. And you're going to remember you want to feel that way again. You know, you don't want to feel the way you feel when you don't do those things, when you don't hold your tongue, or when you don't love others as you love yourself, you know?
So what I pulled from it was the NIV version is slightly different. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. So it brought me to say, sometimes I walk past the mirror and I don't even look. You know, you're not paying attention. If I put that into my terms of relationship with God, I'm not looking at that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing what I want. And um, he's pretty plainly told us what we're supposed to be doing. And yesterday had that, well, the verse that we just discussed. It had in there the wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. And it's kind of where I felt that I am. I'm just going wherever. What's my purpose? I don't know. I mean, kids are happy. Life's pretty good. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And that's not going to get me closer to them. If anything, it's getting me further away from them. And this James study is a clear reminder to me as we go through all of these verses, clear reminder to me of where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing, what I keep telling myself I want for myself, for my children, for my husband. If I just keep going with the wind, ebb and flow, I'm not going to get to where I actually want to be, where I say I want to be. So do I want to be there or do I not?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to keep doing what I want or do I want to start listening to his gentle suggestions?
Yeah. um, yeah, that's hard. It's hard because sometimes that means you have to prune someone or something from your life. And that's hard. Hmm. Wow. One of the things that I want to do, that I want to start practicing, that I know we're supposed to do from the Bible is tell more people about Jesus. Like I'm all about that if I perceive that as a safe person, you know,
Approachable.
approachable. I might even kind of know, you know, I might not know them, but I might know enough about them to know they at least go to church, you know. Um, because I'm always afraid I'm going to go up to a perfect stranger and just, say something about Jesus, and they're not going to receive it well, and they're either going to be mean, they're going to disrespect my Jesus, and then they're going to see gangster come out of me. And that's not representing Jesus well. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, you know, and I don't know, that it just makes me nervous to do that in a situation where, I'm by myself. That I don't have a person that knows me well enough with me to say, let's just go, you know? Um, I think another thing is speaking life into myself. I'm pretty well about speaking life into other people, but I don't speak life into myself very well. And surrendering some things. Um, the surrendering things is hard because I've had them for a long time, and they're not physical things, of course.
Right.
But I've held on to them, and I've had them for a long time, and I don't know who I am without them, without those things about myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know you well enough to know that you're praying about it for guidance.
I'm convicted about it for sure. So that's a start. And so of course I am praying about it. Um, but it's one of those things that my brain just developed over years and years and years. Let's just add one more years of trauma. Um, it's just the way my brain developed my defense mechanisms, and it's kind of how it's kind of the lens in through which I see the world around me. And I know I need to surrender those things. I know that I do. And just because I surrender them doesn't mean that the Lord's going to take them from me. Okay? Because that might be what Gresham needs to make it through this life. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily bad things, but I oftentimes put them in front of God. They're idols, if you will, because I revert to that first. And I don't do it consciously, you know.
But you realize that afterwards, and that's the way.
Yes, yes, and I'm convicted, and I pray, and I ask forgiveness, and um, so that's where I'm at with that. But it is really, really hard. Oh, just lay it at the feet of Jesus. Okay, how? Thank you for saying that, and I mean, I believe in that. I do. But how do you do that when it's not? I mean,
You can't ask me. I'm the one over here going, I don't even know how. I I I have doubt. So
yeah.
for me to think of laying at the feet of Jesus, you just sound like me talking. Like that was definitely something I would say, like, okay, smart person over there. Why don't you tell me how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I have, I've had a prayer box where, I've had worries. I did, for like worries, and fears. And I write them on that piece of paper and I fold it up and I put it in that box. And there was something very powerful about physically getting it out and putting it, that was like, okay, God, here's this worry, here's this fear. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I know you will. And I've done that with these three specific things that I need to surrender. I've done that, but like they're so ingrained that they just happen, and I don't consciously do it. They're just there. And so, God, he never gives up on us.
Good thing.
As I got that right. So I know that there's more than just me and you that struggle with that. I know that there is. And so, I would be curious, what have you guys done when you've needed to surrender something, and you've prayed, and you've done the laying it at the feet of Jesus. I mean, and you still got it. Like what do you guys do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to have some ideas.
Yeah.
Try.
Me too.
NIV, James chapter 2, verses 14 through 17. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead.
Yeah. That's good stuff right there.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And my highlighted part of this is faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. So I can tell you all day long that I'm a Christian, but if I don't show you and God, then what am I?
Right.
I'm a person who says I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make me a Christian.
You're exactly right. Wow, that's good, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
This is also one of those verses that gets taken out of context a lot.
Yeah.
This verse, I can't tell you how many times was used against me. Um, over, I don't know, 12 years or so. Um, this is one of those things that you have to pray for wisdom and discernment. Um, like if God specifically says, go give that person sitting over there, I don't know, however much money you've got on you. You know, you might be having the thoughts, God, I'm going to give that person that money and they are going to go do something they ought not to be doing with it. You know, buying alcohol or drugs or, you know, gambling, you know, whatever the case may be. But you should not concern yourself with what they do, with what God tells you to give them. Your job is to obey God, and what they do with what you gave them is between them and God, right? But if God does not specifically tell you, we do know we are to love our neighbors as ourselves, right? Love each other, love others the way that you love yourself. And so if your neighbor has no food and you have food, then it just makes sense to give them a little of your food, right? Right. If they need a warm jacket and you have an extra, it just makes sense to give them your jacket, your extra, you know? Um, it may even be a case where they need to take the jacket you're wearing and you wear the extra, you know? But, you know, you just have to you just have to pray for wisdom and discernment in this area because unless God specifically tells you to do something, be good to other people, y'all, but don't enable, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should never be used against you. I mean, I do a lot of things for other people because that's my love language, like showing somebody that I care for them by providing them with something out of the blue, making a dinner and bringing it to their house, or heck, just offering to pick something up for them to keep them from having to go out of their way.
Mhm.
Just little things like that. So I think that I am good at doing those types of things. I don't think that I've ever seen somebody that was truly in need and turned away from them, even if it's a homeless person or something. Now, I'm sorry, I don't give money to the people that sit out in the corner of the interstate. There's too many bad stories, like getting into the Mercedes to drive.
Oh, that story.
I don't play those games. But when you see somebody that's truly in need and you feel it, then you help.
Yeah.
It can be hard because evil is lurking out there and taking advantage of people
Mhm.
or using this against you.
Yep.
So just, I like what you said about discernment. Definitely. We could all use a little more of that.
Yes, good. Um, Real quick, I'll tell you, it's been several years ago, and school had just started back, and the kids weren't even back yet, so it was pre-planning. And you know, teacher work days, pre-planning, post-planning, we can leave for lunch if we want to. And that particular day, I did. I had an errand to run, and I went and ran my errand, and coming I was on my way back to school and I was about to get on the interstate and there was this old lady. I mean, old, y'all. She looked to be 100 years old if she was 20. Okay. I mean, she looked ancient. Um, and so I was like, oh man, and it's hot and she's sitting under, it wasn't an umbrella, but she was trying to make it into an umbrella. Um, and her face just looked ungodly sunburned. So I went, you know, I'm just driving on the on ramp to on the interstate. And I got about halfway down the on ramp, and God says, give her the money in your pocket, in your wallet. And I was like, I don't remember how much it was, maybe $15.
Mhm.
I don't remember exactly. I'm like, God, now you know that's all I got, right? And I mean, I knew I was supposed to go give it to her. So I'm on the on ramp. I'm going to back up
Mhm.
because if I saw somebody backing up on the on ramp, that would freak me out. And I just didn't want to have any of that. So I got out of my car, walked back up there, handed her the money, and I said, God told me to give this to you. And she stood up, and her face, it was awful. It looked like she got really sunburned and then was peeling and got really sunburned again. I mean, it looked like a repetitive type thing. And she was like, "Oh, honey, thank you so much." She said, I've got cancer on my face. That's why I'm under this thing." And she said, "I'm trying to get to Florida to my son." And I said, "Well, you're welcome." I said, "But if you're going to Florida, you need to be going the other direction." And she was like, "Nuh-uh." I was like, "Yes, ma'am, you do." I said, "This is 75 north this way." I said, "To go to Florida, you need to be 75 south." She said, "This way is south." I said, "No, ma'am, it's not. It's north." I said, "The next town is going to be this. The next town is that." And I said, "You're, all the way up to all the way to Atlanta. This is going to take you north." And the woman got mad at me, started hollering at me. I just gave this woman my last $15 and she's hollering at me because I told her she was going the wrong way. And she was going the wrong way. And she was mad at me. And so I get all huffy, and I start walking back to my car and she's still just hollering at me. And I said, "I'm just trying to be nice. You're going the wrong way. You need to be on the other side, going the other direction." No. I mean, she was just being a table, and I just got back in my car and I'm like, "Really, dog? Like, really? That's what I get for being nice?" Like her hollering at me, her mad at me because she's going the wrong way. He's like, "That's not your concern. None of that is your concern. You did what I told you to do." So even when you do the right thing, you don't always get,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
that can be frustrating because I was very confused about that for a long time. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So that's the end of our part one.
Part 2 is coming soon, guys.
Yeah.